Hello, I am Ben Dedekins, and this is my presentation for the War Stories project. Before starting the course, I had very little music knowledge. The only knowledge that I had was being able to play the drums. Before starting the course, I had no knowledge on DAWs, and I had never used a DAW before. Now being on the course for over a year now, I now know how to use Logic at a decent level. I can use things like EQ, reverb, samplers, loops, MIDI regions, buses, double tracking, transitions, panning, DIing guitars, and a good idea on mixing. Also, before starting the course, I'd never used DaVinci or any video editing softwares. I now know how to cut and change length of clips, insert audio clips, use the transition page, keyframing, and title clips. This has also been shown in a documentary I made last year, the first year of the course. My introduction into the studio. In the first year, we had a couple lessons in the studio where Steve and Mark were showing us through a couple of the recording processes and techniques. For my FMP last year, I also recorded several instruments. I recorded the drums, the guitar, and the piano. I tried 40 different guitar techniques, 3 different drum techniques, and 2 different piano techniques. All of this helped me gain knowledge in the studio. Having all this time in the studio has really helped me. I feel like now I can have a studio session by myself and I'll be able to run it. I know how to use microphones such as the AKG 414B, a Sennheiser MD421, a Shure SM58, a Shure SM57, Neumann KM 184s, and an Audix D6. I also know how to use XLR cables and jack leads, as well as setting up microphone stands. In response to my feedback on the first year, Nick said that I did very well in my FMP. He said that through the weeks I got better and better as I was using my reflection to improve my work. I feel like also my practical side of the project was very good, as in my recording techniques went well. Things I need to work on from feedback from the first year is I need to use 3 perspectives when writing my reflection. I need to use my tutor's perspective, my peer's perspective, and my perspective. And then I need to create an action plan and stick to the action plan and reflect back on the action plan when I've done the action plan. The aim for this project. I aim to make a moving image and track for this project. I aim for it to be about 2 to 3 minutes long. I'm going to base my project from a story from World War II. This story is Operation Carthage. It is a story of an air raid by the RAF that was somewhat unsuccessful. The RAF were meant to bomb the opposition stronghold, but instead a plane crashed into a school and created a diversion, and the following 2 waves of the RAF then bombed the school instead of bombing the stronghold. Once I have researched my story and gathered enough evidence, I will then construct a 2 to 3 minute video of videos, photos, and movie clips that I can relate from the story. Once I have completed making the video, I will then move on to the track. I will do the film first so that I can make my idea and reasoning for the track more clear, because I will know what feel I want for certain parts of the track. I'll also have to make adjustments to the clips after the track is done, just to make sure everything is in time and lines up with the audio. Before starting the track, I'll also need to find some inspiration tracks just to get an idea and some inspiration. I am aiming to go for a sort of slow styled indie track. I will be using influence from Mac DeMarco and Conan Moccasin. I like the slow and calm feel of their music, but my main influence will be my World War II story and how that affects the emotion of the track. Once I've got a clear idea of how I want the track to sound, I will then start the recording process. On this track, I'm going to be recording Monty on the guitar and myself on the drums. I will also be using Monty to do a bit of the composing elements of the project. I will also learn off of him while he composes and ask him for tips and tricks on how he does it. The rest of the song and the other instruments I will add will be on Logic Pro X. After I've completed making the track, I will then mix and master it in the studio on the monitors, and then I'll export it. I will then add it into my DaVinci project and link it up with the moving images. I will adjust the clips to make the audio fit the images and make it all perfect. Research. For research, I will be researching my World War II story and what happened. I will be using reliable resources and make sure to use 3 different websites per story. I will then also research microphone techniques and recording techniques for when I'm in the studio. I will be using resources such as YouTube, People's Mosquito, and Telescoper for completing this research. This will be my secondary research. Then for my primary research, I'll be experimenting different video editing styles and how I want it to look. I'll be trying different marking techniques when I'm in the studio, and I'll gather a couple of recordings and show them to my focus group and see what they think about it. I will be using reliable resources such as Sound on Sound, YouTube, and books to complete this research. Problem solving. This will be an important part of my project. I will be expecting to come across problems throughout this project. A couple of the problems that I could face will be in the studio. I could face faulty cables not working, microphones not being plugged in properly, faults with the studio desk. All of this will be problem solving. I will need to prepare myself in order to prevent this by checking cables, checking that everything is on and working. I will also be coming across theoretical problems like spelling and grammar. For example, in my previous project, I've struggled with spelling and grammar. In this project, I will be double checking all my work and making sure that it is all 100%. Through this project, I will encounter more problems that I have not planned for, but I will have to problem solve these as I go along. I will also be using my focus group, like my peers and my tutors, to help me solve some of the problems that I will face. Planning and production. This project will last 6 weeks. On weeks 1 and 2, I aim to do pre-production and planning. This will include doing my proposal, my presentation, and the planning of the project. I will be planning the studio times to save time when it comes to the studio. In this time, I will also be carrying out most of my research. On weeks 3 or 4, I aim to do the production. This will include constructing and making the video and recording the track. On weeks 5 and 6, I'll be mixing and mastering the track and adding it to the moving image. I'll also be doing the final touches of my WordPress and my final evaluation. Practical skills. In this project, my practical skills will be very important as I'll be recording in the studio. I need to develop skills such as recording skills, composing skills, and instrument playing. With recording skills, I would like to further my knowledge of recording, as in the first year FMP, I did various recording techniques. In this project, I want to take a few of those techniques that I did last year and develop them further and do some trial and error and try some different techniques with those techniques. For example, I did the X and Y and the Glyn Johns last year and the space pair. So for example, I would like to try the Glyn Johns with more microphones. With the guitar, I would also like to try to use more than one mic on the guitar amp and try different guitar amps. I will also need to develop my composing skills. To help me with this process, I'll be working with Monty, who is from my focus group. I'll be working with Monty in the studio as I will help him with recording techniques and he will help me with composing in both of our projects. I will also be playing the drums on his song as he is playing guitar on mine. Evaluation and reflection. This is an important part of the project as it shows my growth and my skills. Throughout the project over 6 weeks, I'll be doing evaluation and reflection. I will reflect on every week and say what went well and what didn't go well. I will then compose an action plan. I will also get feedback from my tutor and my peers. I will be reflecting to bring around change. Presentation. I will be showing my theoretical work on WordPress as this is an efficient way of organizing my work. I will be also creating different posts on WordPress so it is easier to locate my work. For the actual presentation, I will have my moving image and track on an iMac placed inside a square box. This box will have a cut-out hole which will be used as a viewing hole. There will also be headphones to be placed on for the viewer. This will give the viewer a more interesting and interactive experience. Here are some proposed research sources